Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Friday. And I'm going to start with yesterday afternoon's European before we go to what's going on now, because I want you to get a real flavor here of just how ridiculously volatile these models have not only have been, but once again, it seems that the European has created a major storm where it's not going to happen. And I'm going to show you that yesterday afternoon, the European model put the blizzard back on the table for the Midwest. And what it did was, if I back up just a little bit here, and let's go to the initial from yesterday. Okay, so this is the starting point, and here's that system in the southwest that gets kicked out ahead, which we know, and that's going to happen. And it has this deep upper low and trough in the west with a pretty strong area of energy here dropping into Nevada. And yesterday, what it did was it kind of dug this down into southern Colorado and New Mexico and made another storm that it wrapped up and took up over central Lake Michigan. If I show you the surface here, you'll see exactly what it did. I mean, it's got a wrapped up, here's the first low that comes out of the Gulf that goes to the Ohio Valley and then redevelops and just stays pretty weak. But then we have the second low in North Texas that intensifies rapidly as that trough swings around, and you wound up with an intense storm sitting in central Lake Michigan and basically bringing a blizzard across all of the upper Midwest. All right, well, guess what? Last night's European run took it all away. So, and I'll jump to that and show you that instead, what it did was, in fact, before I show you the surface, let me just show you the upper air so you can kind of get a flavor for this. So here's the upper air, and there's that system in the southwest, and you'll notice here is instead of having that system dig like crazy into Colorado and New Mexico, the European instead, and this kind of goes in line with what the other models were doing, has a much weaker trough here. And you have this upper low, and you actually at this point have already lost that system that moved up into the northeast has kind of disappeared, and you've got this ridge that's built up in the eastern states. So as a result, you have a much flatter look here, and that progressed to the east basically as a polar front with some rain ahead of it and some snow behind it and not much else. So that was the first indicator that things are going differently with this entire event. And indeed, when we look at the GFS, and I have to tell you, quite honestly, there are people out there who live and die by the European run. I try not to marry myself to a particular model. I try to find what works. And right now, to me, the GFS is just outperforming in the broad sense. Now, here's the situation on the new run where this southwest system lifts up, and you can see what happens to it. It basically weakens over time, so that by the time it gets to the East Coast, you can still pick it out there, but it's kind of weak. And then you have that whole system coming, the next one coming out of the west, but it's so broad. It's hard to find any. There's like little pieces of energy there on the flow, but it's such a broad system. You don't have that one definable system that's coming out to make for an important event. So gradually, what happens is it just overwhelms cold air into the United States, and particularly eventually into the eastern part of the United States. And this is toward the end of next week, where you have some kind of trough that's coming through in the eastern states, but there's no big storms here. You got something coming into the northwest. You've got a ridge here building up in the Rockies. So that pretty much sums that up. And we're going to look now at the surface, because I want to take you along what I think is going to happen as we go through the weekend and into next week. First off, you see all this rain back through Texas, little snow in parts of New Mexico, a little light rain and snow in Kansas. You've got some light snows up in the northern Rockies. You've got some lake effect stuff going on in parts of the Northeast. Now, a little piece of that's in the Gulf comes out ahead. So by Sunday afternoon, you have an area of light snows that develop across parts of the Midwest, and I think this could wind up being an inch or two in some places uh, as far as snow is concerned. And then you have, this area of rain, and we're starting to see the rains actually spread up into areas that are going to that really need it. We've got snow up in the northern Rockies extending down into parts of the Pacific Northwest. So this is now for Sunday evening. The GFS loses that northern system, so it really doesn't produce very much. Some of the other models continue to produce some light precip over parts of the Northeast with this, but low pressure is going to come out of the Gulf states and run up into central Tennessee. At this point, this is on Tuesday morning. What you have here is a warm front that's kind of like this. And what usually happens is you can see where these isobars are stretched out. All right, so let me just show you that. Right in there, you got these. All right, well, that's good. It zoomed in for me, so that actually helps. But right here, you see how the isobars here kind of stretch. Don't let me draw. There we go. You see how they stretch out, right, like that? That's what happens as you get these lows, they move up into the Ohio Valley and they tend to weaken, and then you wind up having a secondary low that develops on the warm front. And this is quite common in the Northeast in the wintertime, especially. You've got the other thing that's happening is you have a high to the north, and that's ridging down, building a ridge down into the mountains. So it basically forces the energy to transfer over, and sometimes you can get mega development out of this, but this is not going to be one of those cases because that upper air system is actually weakening as it moves northeastward. And you can see what happens. A new low forms northeast of North Carolina and then kind of slides to the east. Precipitation in the northeast at this point is pretty light, but you do have some snow on the northern edge. And I think, if it comes in while there's some cold air around in areas along the coast, you might have some wet snow or sleet mixed in at the start. I think that would be about it. But it does produce a light snow event in inland areas. And then after that, it just overwhelms cold air. There's no storm. The system that's up in Canada here winds up taking most of the energy, and it really doesn't even intensify very much. You do have a fairly decent shot of cold air here, though, that comes into the Northeast late next week and into next weekend, and then that's pretty evident. So this is a fairly cold shot that's coming out of Canada, and it is the coldest air of the season so far. Let me just widen out so you can take a look at the overall flavor. And of course, because I'm a weather person and I'm never satisfied, I'm going to wait to see what the European offers in terms of an alternative, because the volatility has been the way it is. God knows what that's going to do. But when we look at this upper air at this point toward later next week, it's kind of a cold flow. You've got air that's coming out of Canada. You have a trough that's along the east coast. You have a trough that's off the west coast. You have a weak ridge up in the Rockies. So this is a mechanism to bring down colder air. Now the question will be what happens when this trough pulls out. I don't have the GFS out far enough to determine that at this point, but we can look at the thermodynamics of the atmosphere in terms of the temperature. Actually, let's look at the anomalies, because I think that'll be a better look. And we can look at what happens with the temperatures in terms of above and below normal as we go through that. We're starting with Sunday here, and you can see here in the east, it's kind of normal, a little bit above for a day until that polar front takes over, and then gradually you've got all this cold air that builds up in western Canada. You can see it all here. This is all below normal temperatures now for the end of next week. So this is all going to play itself out. Now, in terms of what happens in the long range, I don't know. There's a lot of changes that are going to be happening. The pattern still remains very, very, very volatile. And that's going to make for more interesting and volatile forecasts. Let's look at, to leave you with the last thing, we'll put up the GFS snowfall forecast map and I'll run it through. So you can see the lake effect snows that are developing here in the Northeast right now. And then you start to add, and there's that snow for Sunday over the Midwest. Again, a general 1 to 2 inch snowfall. Actually, it does even bring some of it down to the south and parts of Ohio and Indiana, and then a little bit into the Northeast as well. But again, the GFS weakens this first lead system that comes out on Sunday, and then we add snows on Tuesday night, Wednesday, with that next weather system with the low that comes out to that Tennessee Valley and redevelops off the Mid-Atlantic coast. And then after that is just cold air and lake effect through the end of next week. And that's the GFS model. I'll show you the NAM model, which only goes out 84 hours. So this only takes us into Tuesday. But it does show a little bit more of a robust snowfall with this weak system that's coming out first with 1 to 2 inches across the Great Lakes. And it has a little bit more in areas further south when you get into the northern parts of Pennsylvania, even into northwest New Jersey, parts of the Hudson Valley, and northwest Connecticut get dotted with a little bit of light snow on this particular run. So we'll see what the European offers. So stay tuned for later posts later today on the website, meteorologistjoechaffee.com, and we'll update you on that. And subscribe to my app. The app is free. You can download it. Subscribe for just 99 cents a month. And if you want for local forecasts, I have 3 separate zones. I have a zone for New York City, Long Island, and northern New Jersey, and the Hudson Valley. I have a zone for central and southern New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania, and a third zone for Connecticut. I think I might have the only app that forecasts for Connecticut. And by the way, the difference, you can get these apps that have icons on them, and those are all generate GFS generated forecasts, and that's why they have forecasts going out for however many days, and then the icons change every 6 hours. Okay. On my app, you get my forecasts. You get my opinions. I update them at least twice a day. You get a specific forecast going out 4 or 5 days, and you get a nice discussion with real-time satellites, real-time radars. If you punch it up at any time during the day, the radars and satellites will be real-time, and so you get my opinion. Okay. You don't get a computer-generated icon and somebody you can't talk to. Once again, thank you very much. I've noticed the engagement has really picked up, and I'm thrilled. I love that all you people are here. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's free. Actually, the apps, if you subscribe to the app for me, it helps me keep the YouTube channel free. So, all these things really help me out, and I really, really appreciate it, and I enjoy having these wonderful discussions with everybody. I'll try to put up links to my posts where I can in the discussion. So have a great day, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Facebook Live too. So if you're on Facebook, just look me up, Meteorologist Joe Chaffee, and like my page, and you can get all my live Facebook posts as well.